So I'm getting a chance to drive a whole bunch of fun things that I've never driven before, never reviewed before, like this unicorn. Pretty sure this is a unicorn, right? Because I have never once seen this. Jack from Platt Auto here, by the way. I'm Brian. Welcome to Futuraza. What is this?
It is a Ford Focus electric, and yeah, most people probably haven't seen one.
I've definitely never seen one, and I've been to a lot of shows and I've done a lot of looking. And it's great. It's great. It's, a 2015, so you're going to get, some dings and some paint and some curb rash. The color's fantastic. It's nice and deep and blue and all that. But it is electric. What did they make? 8 of these?
It wasn't a whole lot. It was one of those compliance cars that Ford made because they had to. I think it was one of the ones that was only sold on the West Coast, California, Oregon only.
Probably California only, maybe even.
Yeah.
So you said there's something to look for that tells you something might be a compliance car.
You can normally tell a compliance car because it's something that they're taking an existing gas car platform and they're making it an EV. So you get some sacrifices there, like, well, your trunk's not as big as it normally would be.
It's not bad, but yes, this is not from the ground up design. I would agree with you.
Absolutely, yeah, good enough for groceries, but you got this huge bump here. You get some storage in there, but yeah, it's really, you can tell they just threw the battery in the trunk.
And so I'm looking at this saying, the rear suspension looks a little low, and I'm guessing that's because you've got a lot of weight in the back.
Yeah, a battery that size is normally close to 1,000 pounds, probably 700-800 pounds because it's a similar size battery to what the Nissan Leaf had of the era.
Okay, so 50-ish? What is it?
Range?
No,
or capacity? Capacity is about 20, maybe 24 kilowatt hours.
Oh, wow. So
rated,
this is a city car.
Absolutely. The rated range when it was new was in the mid 70s, maybe 75 miles.
Now this car is 100 grand, 150 grand?
Just a mere $8,000 and change. And that's before factoring in any incentives. So this car would qualify for a 30% federal rebate.
So we're talking knock almost 3 grand off this price. And in Oregon, there may soon be also additional state incentives that would knock it down another, what, 100, 500 bucks,
The
1,000
charge
bucks?
ahead rebate is a $5,000 program. So
Is it price cap? So this would be a free car?
basically.
Holy smoke-a-rhubobs.
Now we used to, when the charge ahead rebate existed a little while ago, we were giving Leafs away and people were getting more money than what the car was worth. So literal free EVs.
Wow. Wow. And this is as close to free as you're going to get anyway. Now, I would argue the interior is in a whole lot better shape than I expected. Certainly, it's probably low miles, isn't it?
Well, let's look at the mileage on this one. So
52,000.
52,000 for nearly a 10-year-old car is definitely low miles. But that's what you get from these,
Low
low mile
range
city cars. They're just being
Yeah.
putted around town. None of
Yeah.
these went on a cross-country road trip.
Yeah. Well, let's go.
Let's do it.
Let's go cross country right now. That would be an adventure.
Focus EV Cannonball record. 2 months.
Focus EV Cannonball record. You could set a lot of records by driving unicorns.
So keys in my pocket. So
Okay,
you got
so
your
good
push
enough?
button just there behind the steering wheel.
I got to tell you, I am not a fan of push buttons in the invisible place because you cannot see it.
Nah, that's a muscle memory thing that you gotta
I
try
gotta
out.
do the manual.
Yeah.
Hit the start. And this is very much a 2015 aesthetic. It's fine. I don't mind it. I mean, it looks great. It looks fine. It's exactly what I expected, except that it's a lot nicer in here in terms of condition. And you can see mostly charged, 53 miles of range. How far do you drive each day? Do you already have 2 cars? Hey, there he is. Hey, Peter. Peter's a fellow member of the Oregon Electric Vehicle Association. Come join us. We meet every month. So this is, if you're driving 10 miles to work and 10 miles back, you've got way more range than you need. And oh no, I'm going to get stuck in traffic and run out of gas. No, when you're stuck in traffic in an EV, you're not burning electrons. It's got a normal shifter.
Yeah, that's kind of where you can tell when a car comes directly,
see.
from being a gas car, is the normal shifter, normal handbrake. There you go. So now you got your little green car light. That's what's telling you it's turned on.
So when I hit start, I didn't have my foot on the brake.
Yep.
Oh, that's fun. That is fun. You warned me.
I did. I mean, you're saying the Audi that we drove a little bit ago was big, heavy, cumbersome.
Oh.
This is anything but.
This is fun. So this definitely weighs the wrong amount. This is definitely way heavier than a Focus should be. But this is, I wouldn't call it fast, but it's peppy. Oh yeah. This has got, I would argue, more pep and fun drivability than a gasoline Ford Focus.
Oh yeah.
And I have driven those. And those are fine cars. Like this car though, Ford was not able to make money on those. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's fun. Now it doesn't keep pulling when you go.
No, they make it, it's very touchy, so you give it a little bit of pedal. It's just such a fun, quick car to drive around, but yeah, it's not gonna pull at the top end.
Well, this is neat. You know, next week I'm gonna be hanging out with my buddy who is a former engineer at Ford who worked on the Mach-E. Maybe Bert can give me some insights. Let me know if it is. If he can, let's talk to him right now. Okay, and I've got Bert Sloan here. He was a engineer at Ford. Tell me anything about the electric Focus.
Okay. Brian, I can't do this.
I
love it.
Anything at all about the electric Focus.
Well, what am I going to say about it?
Well,
I mean, we had a box in the trunk. It
was the battery sat in the trunk. It had 50 miles, 60 miles of range. Was it your team? Was it somebody else's team?
So I was on the team that developed it. I joined the team when we were switching to other styles, yes. But there was no trunk space in it. There wasn't. I mean, it had very limited range. Yes.
Yeah, cool little car, a little bit of fun. See, that's the kind of insights you get. And back to your regular programming. Now, thanks, Bert. So anyway, this car, let's say who it's not for. Road trippers?
Nope.
People who need more than 5 seats? Who else is it not for? People whose commute is longer than 20 miles? I'd say most people's commute is under 20 miles.
Yeah. Definitely most of the people that we see living in the Portland area, I mean, a long day for them driving all over town can get up to 30 miles. And that's something where, this can handle all of that. And it's a wonderful, maybe even a second car where, we say a second car, but it does most of your driving. And you can keep a gas car around for when you want to go to the beach or go on a longer drive. But this really handles most of your driving and saves you all that gas and all that maintenance.
So in almost every market, electricity is so much cheaper that it doesn't make sense to go with gas anyway. But when the car itself is approaching free or literally free, because this would be, even with just the federal incentive, under $5,000 for a car that's got 50,000 miles on it. And again, this is kind of a unicorn, but if you can find it anywhere, it's probably going to be about this price, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, they're those kind of lower range EVs, like it's very comparable to the older generation of the Nissan Leaf, those early e-Golfs, all those cars that have the sub 100-mile range. You can find them all the time for under $10,000 in a good condition like this. This one is a bit of a unicorn, though, being the Focus EV.
That's so cool. Anything inside we should look at? Now, it doesn't have a pass-through because it doesn't need one. If you need a pass-through, fold down a seat. I don't know how much lumber it's rated for, but I would suggest don't haul lumber in it. Would be my advice. Anything we're missing to say about it? I assume this does not have a frunk?
No, it doesn't have the frunk. Being a compliance car, it doesn't optimize every little space that it has. So if you open the hood, you will see your electric motor, a lot of your drivetrain components under there, the computers, and all your big orange wires. But yeah, it's got a couple different drive modes. You're in the normal drive right now. If you pull it back into the L mode, that's your high regen setting. It feels a little bit closer to a Tesla where you get that immediate regen, a little heavier. So it does have the variable drive modes that a lot of the EVs will do.
That is fun. Boy, I tell you, if I was in the market for this, if we needed a second car for just run around, because I know there's a lot of people who will not drive on the highway. can tell you I live with some of them and have for some time. It is, yeah, this is fantastic. I'm going to leave it right here so we can talk about it.
Absolutely.
And the price, I mean, on a 4-year loan, you're talking $100.
That's what my first EV looked like. I mean, it was one of those little Fiat 500s that we spoke a little bit about last time, where your monthly payment on something like this, if you're replacing a gas car, can be less than what your gas bill was monthly. A lot of people spend easily $200 a month in gas. So payment on this, you're saving money, getting a new EV, and you don't have to pay for any of that gas. You're getting a nicer, newer car in a lot of cases than a lot of people's old gas EVs. So it's easier to get into
and on a battery this small, a 110 charge is probably all you need.
It'll come pretty close to a full charge overnight on a 120 volt charger.
Yeah. So you don't need to hire an electrician. It as provided you save enough that you can afford an extension cord.
Yes, $30 for a nice
Well,
one.
and by the way, if you're going to use an extension cord, get a nice one. Do not cheap out. Go with the thick work ones, because if you're pulling a lot of juice for a lot of hours, spend the extra $20. You don't burn your house down.
Correct.
And you wouldn't burn your house down necessarily, but you would. I bought some cheap jumper cables once. I needed jumper cables, and they had a $50 pair and a $15 pair. And I said, how bad could they be? And they were single use.
Yep.
They melted on one use.
Yep.
So lesson learned on that one. So let's hop out and sum it up. And this is crazy because, yeah, nine grand, take 3 off that, you're at 6, and then with incentives, if you've got any kind of state or local incentives, and in some places, in some states, you can even get rebates for installing your charging and whatnot.
There's a federal program for installing a charger where you can get 30% back from your EV installation. And most local utilities, or a lot of local utilities, will have incentives for installing EV home charging.
Yeah, so cool. So here's the thing we do at the end of these videos, and this is why you hung around this long and will continue to do so, and I appreciate it, is because sometimes you guys ask fantastic questions in the comments and we wish to answer them. So Jack, a question that we saw that had come up was, wouldn't it be great if shops like yours ran diagnostics and didn't just take in a car and spit out a car and sell it? Do you run any diagnostics? Is that a thing?
Not with all cars are we able to plug into them and check on the battery health. Things like a Nissan Leaf, where they have a built-in gauge that tells you the battery health, is wonderful, and that's something that we always check on and report. But things like a Focus EV, things like a Hyundai or a Kia, or really most EVs out there, there's not something you can just plug in. You normally, to get any sort of battery measurement, you got to take it to the dealer, give them a lot of money for an inspection, and then they won't even tell you the battery capacity. They'll tell you if it's good or bad.
Right. Pass fail after paying for it is not great information.
No.
But what I will tell you is that batteries are still getting more reliable, but they're already quite reliable. Would you agree?
Yes, I mean, especially with newer EVs, you know, the later generation of the Leaf, any of the Chevy Bolts, it's so rare to find any of them with any noticeable degradation. And one thing that we do, especially for an older EV like this, where yeah, it's definitely had some battery degradation, we have a return policy and we allow people to take, you know, an extended test drive to test the range for themselves before they're really locked into the car. So you can, you know, test it out, be sure the range actually works for where you need it to before you're really stuck with it.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I've bought used cars before. It doesn't matter to me if the battery costs $5,000 in this or $500,000. If I'm driving this car and the battery goes, chuck it, bin it to the trash. But if I'm driving the gasoline version and the transmission or the motor goes, or any gasket or any piss, I mean, there are not a lot of things on a $5,000 car that can go wrong before you say next.
Absolutely. And in all reality, everyone's concerned about, oh, what if the battery goes out on me? It doesn't happen. You know, over the lifespan of an EV, you're going to lose a little bit of range. That's normal, that battery degradation. But if you only need 20 miles a day, I can't imagine a day when this car won't go 20 miles a day.
One thing we saw was people complaining, how come there's not any battery recyclers? Well, now there's a few, but there weren't any for a long time. And the reason was the batteries weren't dying.
No.
They were staying in cars, and if the car got wrecked, they'd go in a classic car or some other car, or if it had gotten down below 60-70% capacity, they'd be used in off-grid storage. And I believe I'd read that BMW at one time, and I think they still do, take in old automotive batteries and put them in for stationary storage at their headquarters or something, somewhere crazy like that. In the comments, you tell me what it is. So remember, guys, the videos are where I try to make you a little smarter, and the comments are where you make me a little smarter. Ask us more good questions. We'll give you more answers. I can't speak to the quality. That is above my pay grade. So what did we miss? What did we misunderstand? Leave it all in the comments below, and stay tuned, stay juicy, and I cannot wait to hear from you clever robots in the future. Is this the future? No.